All right. It's always a little weird to start the stream because it's not perfectly on time with me. However, hello. I'm just gonna wait for a few people to join. So just to start off, I actually wanted to say that today I actually planned on filming a video with my video camera, like a more traditional video, so I guess a video wasn't going to go up today. However, I searched the whole place and I just could not find it. I think the housekeeper must have put it away somewhere where I just don't know where it is and can't find it. So, nevertheless, here we are live on YouTube. This is actually a topic that I definitely want to make a more structured video about as opposed to just going live and kind of ranting about it. However, I didn't fill my water. Uh-oh. Oh well, it'll be fine. I think it'd be good to kind of just start this conversation on live. So, the reason I chose this exact topic is a few things. First of all, I kind of had like a realization a few weeks ago that the more you try to prove yourself as a specific thing, the more you show how you are not that thing. So, let me give you an example. Let's say there's someone who's like a teenager and they really want to prove that they're mature. But the thing is, they're not addressing or really looking at their immaturity because they really want to prove to everyone, the adults in their life, their peers, etc., that they are mature. What's going to happen is they're likely going to say and do things that they perceive or think are mature, as opposed to being their authentic self and having their maturity just show through as they are. So they may, if they have a sexual experience, for example, may really hype that up, say a lot of bad words, cuss words, and in that, they're not doing it in a way that's truly authentic to them. They're doing it in a sense to prove, like, look at me, I'm doing all these things adults do, and therefore, like, I'm mature. But in trying to prove that maturity, it highlights their immaturity. If there's someone that's really angry, someone else triggers them, and they're trying to prove to the people around them that they're not angry and not mad and they can handle this trigger, then they're going to really show these passive aggressive traits that shows everyone around them that they're not really able to handle that trigger, I guess, as consciously as they think they are. So, this video is about like why external validation or searching for external validation makes you unhappy. And I think it has a lot to do with proving yourself. When we try to prove ourselves, we're not trying to like prove ourselves to ourselves. We're trying to convince the people around us, our external environment, that we are the way we perceive ourselves to be. Okay, I perceive myself as kind, therefore I want everyone around me to perceive myself the same way. I want everyone around me to think of myself the way I think of myself. The problem is, you have a very specific filter over the world and over reality. So the way you perceive yourself is not going to be the same as someone else, especially since that other person is not perceiving the reality with the same filter that you are. It's impossible to control other people's perception of you. And yes, you can try, and certainly you will influence people's perspective of you a bit. However, you can't guarantee that everyone in your life is going to perceive you that specific way. Because people are perceiving, we're all reflections of each other. If someone has a strong filter, it doesn't matter how you act, they're going to perceive you in the way that they perceive aspects of themselves. So if you're really trying to prove yourself and trying to get this person to like you, you're likely going to sacrifice who you really are just for the sake of this other person's opinion. And I feel like that in itself can kind of highlight how that can make you unhappy. You're spending so much energy just trying to get acceptance from other people, trying to control their perspective when their perspective is completely out of your control. It makes me unhappy because I never get it from the right people. See, that's the thing. How do I even say this? if you're surrounded by people, because here's the thing, there's so many groups where that's the norm. It's the norm to conform. It's the norm to be a specific way in that group. And therefore, as individuals, if we're seeking for external validation, instead of being ourselves in those scenarios, we almost lose ourselves in that tribe, in that group of people. And therefore, in a way, it's like if we're not authentically on the same wavelength as that group that we're a part of, we're likely going to not feel validated, or we'll feel validated for things like either very like minimally, like instant gratification, or we'll be validated for things that aren't really true to us. And while that may feel good in a moment, overall, in terms of your energy, it's not going to feel good because you're not living authentically to yourself. You're acting like someone else. So you're trying to mirror this group so that you can gain their approval. And it's interesting you say this because I think, for example, making the content I do and talking about these topics online, I definitely get both criticism and negative comments, but also a lot of validation from my audience. And that feels really, really good. However, it's not the same as getting like validation from my family or my close friends. And honestly, like, there aren't many people around me that are super spiritual or that are really exploring their psychology in the way that I am. And so even though people will validate certain aspects of what I talk about, a lot of it is kind of minimized or invalidated, but I also do that myself. So here's an example of how I try to prove myself. And this is something I still do. I'm conscious of it. I'm working on it, but I just want to be open about like something I'm personally experiencing in this, because every video I choose to make a topic on is something that I'm currently working through, facing in my day-to-day reality, which is why it's relevant enough for me to like have an hour long, 40-minute long, however long this live lasts, conversation about that thing. In terms of my spirituality, I do have a lot of beliefs. So, for example, I believe like there's some things I feel like, not even like I don't question it because I question everything, but there's some things that I'm pretty firm on being true that I seriously doubt will ever waver. Like the idea that we are all one. My perspective of that and how that works might shift, might change, might evolve, but that concept to me, I know as truth. But for example, the idea of spirit guides, the way I perceive spirit guides or the way I perceive past lifetimes, I don't feel like I have a solid knowing of exactly what that is or how that works. And I'm not going to claim to. I do believe in past lives. I do believe in multiple lifetimes, but I don't know if it's like I have an individual soul, just like I'm an individual human, and this one soul has lived every one of these lives, or if I'm like a cup of water, and some of this water had a life where I lived in China. Some of this water had a life where I lived in India, but those two lives weren't lived by the same consciousness, but I'm like an accumulation of consciousness that makes up me that lived those lives. Like, I explore all these ideas, but honestly, I don't know what's going on. Anyways, back to what I was saying in terms of searching for validation outside of myself in a sense. I will often minimize my spiritual beliefs to the people around me who aren't very spiritual in order to prevent them from seeing me as crazy or see me as like off the wall or unreasonable, all this stuff, or kind of like woo-woo. Because I want people to take me and my opinions seriously, right? The thing is, when I'm minimizing myself, there's a difference between, I'm not going to share everything because this person may not like resonate with what I'm talking about. So I'm going to keep it to myself. And if they ask questions, I will be completely 100,000% open and honest if those questions are asked of me. and, sharing information and purposefully playing down what you believe to the extent where what you're saying isn't even fully true. In those moments, I am aware that I am looking for the validation of the other person. Another thing I want to bring up is like this does apply to social life, but it also applies to like romantic or sexual part of your life, where a lot of us say like, oh, I want a relationship. I want a serious relationship. And then hook up with people randomly because, it feels good. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you want to do that, that's awesome. However, if you know you want one thing and are acting against what you know you want because it feels good in the moment, even if it feels shitty afterwards, there's clearly some like battle of energies inside of you. There's a part of you that's so desperate for that validation of seeing outside of yourself that someone else is attracted to you, or that someone else wants to do certain things with you or likes you in a specific way. It's like, it's interesting to see how we try to get validation in ways that we don't even actually want, but because there's this underlying belief that we're not good enough, we still do things out of our own best, or not out of our own best interest, but I guess we put our best interests aside in order to get this little hit of someone else making us feel good enough for a moment, because on the inside, we don't feel like we're good enough. And we have this belief that we're only good enough if we meet certain standards and meet certain criteria. Currently in my life, I feel like I've been here for a while, where I feel like I have one foot in the door of the new me, or the present me, the me that's like, I don't even know how to explain it. I guess the me that just isn't trying, that just is, that's living, that's authentic, that's in alignment to my truth and acting off of intuition, versus the part of me that's acting out of ego, the part of me that's acting out of fear, acting out of trying to prove myself. Like, for example, my YouTube channel, for the most part, and my TikTok, started off as me just sharing ideas I wanted to share. Absolutely, there were aspects of trying to prove myself in there, but those were more covert at the time. Once my content started to gain some traction, suddenly in my mind, there comes this pressure of trying to reach certain numbers, trying to work a certain number of hours, trying to make a certain amount of money, specifically so that my family looks at what I'm doing and says, okay, she's doing something with her life. Okay, her using up resources isn't just like a drain, because she's actually putting something out into the world and building a life for herself. When I try to make content specifically to get the approval of other people, it's going to drain my energy a lot faster, because I'm not doing it for me anymore. I'm doing it for my ego, for a sense of validation. The wounded, needy inner child not being seen, heard, or understood. Yes, and that's actually a great segue into kind of the next part of what I want to talk about, which is the reason we look for validation outside of ourselves is because throughout our life, we never develop the ability to validate ourselves. And this occurs when we believe that our worth has to be earned, that our worth is not inherent, that we have to reach a certain standard in order to be deemed as worthy. And we have this belief on the inside or that we are not good enough as we are, and we have to be something or someone else in order to be perceived as good enough. Since I'm not good enough, the closest I can get to good enough is other people thinking I'm good enough, other people believing I'm good enough. So if I can prove that to them, then maybe they can convince me to believe it. But the thing is, that's going to be incredibly unstable because you will never feel good enough for exactly who you are. Because you live within the parameters of a culture and a society and a family unit that has specific beliefs, specific values, specific ideas of what good and bad are. And so if you're trying to receive validation from the people in your environment, you will never be validated as your authentic self unless somehow your authentic self is perfectly in alignment to your environment, which I say the chances of that are basically zero unless you were born into some miracle situation. But from a spiritual perspective, I doubt that, because I feel like we come to this planet or incarnate in order to learn specific lessons. And if you just had all this easy shit handed to you right on the table, then what are you going to be learning? You're just going to be existing, which also isn't bad. Because it's funny, like I was talking to my mom, she's like, you need to either like do school full-time, work full-time, or part-time school, part-time work. You can't just exist. And the part of like, you can't just exist to me was like, whoa, that's weird. Because that bird just exists. I'm not allowed to just exist because I'm a human. Like, does that make sense? I don't know. I mean, you get to live your life however you want to. If you don't want to learn shit, that's up to you. But I feel like you're here because you want to learn shit. And by here, I mean on this earth, but also watching this video, because nobody's like, stop trying to prove myself. Yes, if they're not like trying to question shit. I don't know. All right. Literally just dropped a minute ago and already getting attacked. Love this. Couldn't agree with you more. Thank you, Ozzy. It sounds that you downplaying your personality and dimming your natural outshining light to fit and be accepted by your peers. Sorry, I feel like I read that and none of it went into my brain. Exactly. I'm downplaying who I am, minimizing certain qualities, dimming my light in a sense, in order to feel accepted. I am literally shoving myself into a box in order to feel like I am good enough in my environment. But the thing is, if my core belief was really fully transmuted into the belief that I am good enough as I am and I do not have to prove myself, I wouldn't do that, because that desire wouldn't be there, because I already feel validated within myself. And I'm only going to accept, not like I won't be friends with people who, you know, aren't fully in alignment to me, in terms of like the same as me and understand all of me, because I think it's good to have people who don't fully understand you to get other perspectives, but that's besides the case, or besides the point. I won't be trying so hard to get people's validation if I am validating myself, because then people who love me for who I am will validate me anyway. And I'm not searching for it. It just comes like a magnet, because I'm fully and strongly myself. I'm not searching for that validation. It comes because it's a reflection of my vibration, of my energy. Do you understand what I'm saying? I absolutely love you. Thank you, Jody. I get it. I've learned so much from you. Aw, thank you. Will you save the live stream? Yes, all the live streams on YouTube, like, save to my page so you can always watch them afterwards. Yeah, I've actually been, like, doing a lot of contemplation on what I want to do in terms of my live streams, especially since I love playing video games, and I've been considering, like, live streaming some games, and not sure if I want to create, like, a second YouTube channel for that, or just, like, put it all on Twitch, but again, that's besides the point. Completely different conversation. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with that, but the next Life is Strange game is coming out, and I am really heavily considering streaming it. So, your mom doesn't want to let the face that is covered up by each member of the family doing their part. So if you don't do your part, the part of her that is wounded will be expressed. Exactly. Ever seen that meme where a human calls a monkey stupid for being a wild animal, and the monkey replies, "You're the one paying taxes to live on the planet"? Yeah, it's like, it's true. It's true, Jay. we have like this whole like world within another world where we operate differently from nature, so much so that we forget that we also are a part of nature. And like even like the cities we've built, like there's now animals that live completely differently in order to benefit off of the way that we live in a sense. But also we have like this whole society that's, we've like separated ourselves from nature. I don't know. It's interesting. I think like it's not fully a bad thing to be living differently, especially since we're a little bit more complex. However, I think when you really take a look at it, you start to realize, wait, this is kind of weird. um Anyways, trying to prove yourself. Another thing I wanted to talk about, which applies to this but isn't directly linked to it, is the fact that I personally, like, when I first started doing this work, which was about late 2019, and then I went through my spiritual awakening like early to mid 2020, one of the first things I really spotted was this belief that I'm not good enough. And as time went on and I went through my awakening, when I first went through my awakening, I'm like, oh shit, I'm healed. All this hard work is done. I got it. I just have to do shadow work and I'll be good. But it's really not that simple. It gets messy. It gets hazy. It gets convoluted. And then you realize that so many of the truths that you've come to are actually just manipulations of the truth in a way that pleases your ego. So something I've come to see recently is where I still don't believe that I'm good enough as I am. I still don't perceive myself as worthy. Consciously, I know I'm good enough. I know I don't have to prove my worth. I know that no matter what I do, even if I sat in bed all day and played video games, I would be good enough as I am because I am God. Not like I, Dani, specifically am God. I am God in the way that everything is God because we are all one. We all make up the universe. However, living that life isn't in alignment to me. Does that mean that I'm not good enough because I'm not living in alignment? Because that's what I started to believe. Oh, I'm good enough as I am, but I have to live in alignment in order to be good enough. But why am I not good enough as I am living out of alignment? And it's weird because we try to convince ourselves that like being so hard on ourselves and like hating ourselves is going to bring us into this place where we're a better person. And we look to other people to gauge if we're actually improving or not. Instead of like living within ourselves and seeing it. We're so focused on the external, but this work isn't about changing the surface to change the internal beliefs. This is about shifting the internal beliefs so that the surface changes come easier. If I procrastinate writing my essay whenever I have an essay in school every single time, sure, if it's super, super chronic, I may want to focus on this symptom and say, all right, I'm going to implement certain specific strategies to help me get this essay done on time. But the thing is that energy that's motivating me to procrastinate is not being addressed. I'm basically trying to find some other way using the same internal system I have in order to act in a way externally that's better for my physical life or better in the eyes of other people. When you choose to start from the inside, you are going deep within yourself, looking at the systems in place and saying, okay, this belief is causing me to procrastinate. This belief is causing me to search for validation in other people, etc. When you start with shifting those internal systems, it's not going to be like this overnight. It's going to take a lot of time and energy to shift into the outside because you're like, it's going to ripple out, if that makes sense. Like, I think I said this last live, but if you're addicted to smoking cigarettes and quit cold turkey and don't address why you were using the cigarettes in the first place, yeah, maybe you won't smoke cigarettes anymore, which is a good thing, but you're probably going to develop an addiction to something else. This may be very useful if your addiction is very, very harmful to your life, and switching to another addiction like chewing bubble gum or, I don't know, snapping your fingers. I don't know what that example is. I'm just trying to think of things on the fly. But maybe shifting that thing to another external thing might be good for you because it's essential to assuring your health and safety right now. But if there's something within you that's causing problems in your life and you have the opportunity to address that deeper wound, then that's going to be a more sustainable change in your energy. I hope that makes sense. I watched a channel that talks about how you act when you are talking with people, that you are someone with that person and another one with that person, that I can relate to that, unfortunately. Sorry, I'm like, my brain is like on like run mode and I want to like read and respond to your chat. But sometimes it like, with reading, my brain always is like whenever I'd read in class, I would just be like, I have to read this like 4 times in order to understand what it's trying to tell me. Kill the ego if it's not in line with your instincts of who you really are. Well, that's the thing, is like, your ego doesn't just die. As long as we have like a body, we're going to have an ego. The key is, how do I shift that ego to be in alignment with like my true self? How do I change the beliefs that rule my ego to be something that benefits me instead of something that damages me, or instead of something that just makes me feel icky a lot of the time? So, but it's good in a sense to like, there's moments where you can like detach from it and observe it. Yeah, I've also found, this is going to kind of sound, it won't sound ridiculous. See, that's me like playing down my ideas for other people again. Meditation, honestly, over the past few weeks, not even gonna lie, I have not been keeping up with my regular meditation practice. I have been loving sitting down and playing video games, which is great, and I'm doing it to an extent where it's become an avoidance thing, as opposed to just, it's time for me to relax and I want to play some games. It starts that way and then it turns into an avoidance thing, and I see it, but the thing is, my ego is so strong and so loud that I still fall into it. I still am like, okay, whatever, this is easy. Okay, whatever, this feels good. When you meditate, I kid you not, it's like if the ego is like here, all up in your space. When you meditate, you take a breath and you let it relax. And then you start to see it as something that's like not you, not all around you, but something that's almost like here. And you get to look at it and you get to almost like, you get to interact with it rather than you are it. It's like it can hallucinate you, it can control you, or it can be like a book you read and you can be like, okay, I like this chapter. I don't really agree with this chapter. Okay, let's take these parts of the book and maybe we'll rewrite these other parts. Because the ego, it's in your control. It feels like it's not, but it is. It's like your ego develops from your experiences and from your like authentic self. Like, that's truly what I believe. I truly believe, like, if I'm a highly empathetic person and I act as such and I'm very sensitive, the people in my environment may point out those qualities to me. They may deem some of these qualities as good and some of these qualities as bad. Oh, your empathy makes you really good at comforting other people. Wow, that's so amazing. It's great that you're able to, give up certain like little things that you want in order to make everyone around you happy. That's amazing. Your ego is going to be like, okay, great. I'll latch onto this idea, right? And then they say, oh, well, you cry really easily when you scrape your knee and get hurt. It's not a big deal. Stop whining. Don't be a baby about it. You learn, okay, me showing sensitivity and crying or being emotional is bad. So therefore, I'm going to try to suppress all those things that I perceive in that category so that I can be loved and accepted. That is ego. The thing is, that little kid crying is still you, as much as the empathetic side of you that gives to other people. The thing is, you may not identify with the sensitive side because you've suppressed it, or you do identify with it and you're ashamed that it's there. It could be conscious or unconscious. Okay, now you may be like, why are you saying this? We're talking about proving yourself and validation. Well, I think it has a lot to do with that. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. See, like in my head, I'm like, I feel like I'm bullshitting it. Which, like, I think life is kind of like, not like life is bullshit, but we bullshit a lot. I've written really good essays that were just kind of, this seems right, you know? Anyways. But this is, yeah, anyways. I'm getting in my own head about it. Give me a second. Right, okay. If our ego, so our ego is in our control. But the thing is, when we're younger, we may not be as conscious of this fact and will simply just be in our environment. And therefore will be in our ego instead of like with our ego. So for example, there may be certain contexts in which crying because you're really emotional may not be appropriate. So you say, okay, I see this part of myself that's feeling very sensitive. Right now, I don't really have the space to hold for you. So let's put you to the side. And when I have the space, or not just when I have the space, I will create the space when it feels right to allow you to come forward. And then you actually go through with that at another point in time. Like if you're in a big group, maybe it's not the time to just burst out in tears in front of everyone, you know? And like your ego is a useful tool in that moment, right? But if your ego holds beliefs that damage you and you are not allowing yourself to take a step back, then you will be controlled by this thing to a point where you may not even realize when you are and are not in ego, because it becomes so muddled with your field instead of something that's like, if I have a pond of water and the mud is the ego and the water is your authentic self, if you don't take the time, like, and you're always thinking, you think in meditation too, but you're always like in it. You keep on stirring with a stick and you're just staring at it and you're like, why can't I see anything? Why don't I understand? It's because the water is muddy. You have to let it settle and give it a second to be like, oh, okay. The reason this water tastes funky is because, I don't know, there's a turd in the water that I couldn't see when it was all muddy. Does that analogy make sense to you? I hope it does. What are you playing? In terms of video games, because I assume that's what you're asking. I love Choose Your Own Adventure video games. I think I've said this multiple times. Life is Strange True Colors is coming out in like 11, 12 days, and I'm so excited. I've already pre-ordered it. I'm so excited. Anyways, that's, I've been playing Spelunky 2. I just played Hidden Agenda, which was really fun. I play a lot of games. Oh, Ghost of Tsushima. That game is really good. I probably want to make some other place where I talk about that kind of stuff because I really enjoy it. You do not need others' validation to exist. Just be. True. And as humans, we do have the desire to be validated. And so it is important for us to be validated, but most importantly, we should validate ourselves so we're not... if we're super hard on ourselves, if we are always judging ourselves and believing that we're not good enough, of course we're going to look for validation in other people and do anything we can to receive it. When we love and validate ourselves, myself, yourself, that itch doesn't feel this need to be scratched because you are doing it yourself. And then on top of that, you are not going to be changing who you are in order to receive that validation or feel like you've proven yourself, because you already know that you're good enough as you are. And you know that if you can see that authentically while still looking at maybe some of the things like, okay, I'm not living in alignment here, I'm not really doing what I want here, that kind of stuff, but you look at it from a place of love and are like, okay, let's help myself get to a place where I am living my truth. There's going to be people out there who are going to see you for who you are and validate you. It's not even like you have to search for it, and it's not like you want to get validation, this is how you do it. It's not about that. It's just, it's going to happen. It's not like you validate yourself just to like, so you don't feel the need to be validated anymore. It's like you validate yourself so you can be yourself. You give yourself permission to be yourself in the world. Does that make sense? I feel like it makes sense. Anyways, I've been guilty of seeking validation. I've started listening to self-love affirmations, and they've been helping me a lot. That's awesome. But that's the thing, is like, everyone seeks for validation. Everyone. And the people who don't have. We all have this biological desire to feel this. We all feel this need to belong. Because if you think about it from an evolutionary perspective, humans are a tribal species, a social species. We have thrived and survived because we've worked together. So in times where maybe an individual couldn't fully support themselves because, you know, they couldn't grow their own food or know how to find good water. I don't know how ancient people survived, honestly. Kudos to them. That's really impressive. They did not have a larger structure to support them in a sense, and we do. However, so in those times, it made sense if like I'm a person and I'm in a group that really, really values no emotion, and I'm very emotional, I'm going to do everything I can to hide my emotional side in order to survive in this group. So I'm still emotional, but I'm not acting emotional because in this context, I will probably die because that group may literally choose to kick me out, right? Today, if you're in a group and you're really emotional, at least when you're an adult, if you're kicked out of that friend group, it's not like you're just gonna die. It's not like they're the source of your food and your water and all this shit. So we have to be realistic in the fact of like, it's not something wrong with us that we feel this need to be validated, because it's an evolutionary trait that we've developed. However, we can take that and use that to our advantage and recognize, okay, we are not evolutionary designed at this point to be validated for who we truly are. We're at a point where we're being validated as a way of, oh, the group likes the way you are presenting yourself. The group likes what you are bringing to the table and you're not bringing too many negative things. As opposed to, we love and accept you exactly as you are. And then, I mean, boundaries are important, but this is kind of like a different conversation. But whenever I talk, I realize everything I say can be interpreted a million ways, and like people can definitely misunderstand what I'm saying. So I'm trying my best. But also, I'm not responsible for what you think. So, thank you. Whoever put you in a state to question your worth is trying to live through you by having you accomplish what they failed to accomplish. Yeah, to an extent, that's definitely one perspective of the truth for sure. I mean, anyone who, like, for example, like, parents, like, see their kids as an extension of them. So if a parent has a kid that's misbehaving a lot, the parent will probably feel embarrassed and ashamed, and they're going to do everything in their power to try to make that kid behave in a way where they feel comfortable, because they will then feel accepted by the other adults. You know how many kids, like, how many parents, like, ruin friendships with each other because their kid, like, was an asshole to some other kid, even though it has nothing to do with the parent specifically, possibly? I mean, maybe to an extent, but yeah. My point is, like, when a parent is trying to control their child, it is because the parent has their own problems with self-worth. If the parent already was like, I'm good enough as I am, I love myself as I am, then they'd be able to have an honest conversation with the kid and be like, hey, that's not respectful. What's causing you to feel this way and act this way? Or, I mean, I don't really know exactly how you work with like a 5-year-old. But I'm sure they would be able to be more introspective enough to not try to control the kid, but, teach the kid how to live for themselves in a sense, with some guidance, of course. But yeah, basically, long story short, anyone trying to control you and only sees you as worthy in certain contexts also applies that to themselves. A person who believes they're worthy is going to also treat you like they're worthy. A person that loves themselves isn't going to hate you for some stupid reason, like, I don't know, like who you voted for, or like whether or not you like certain TV shows. I don't know. That's easier said than done, especially since I'm dying and losing it over here because my accounting grade. It is easier said than done. Absolutely. It absolutely is easier said than done. And the thing is, when I was in my first few years of college, in high school, I went to a private school, a very hard, very academically rigorous and challenging school, high school and middle school. And when I got to college, I was the only person in my class who went to a community college. And I'm like, well, this should be easy. I should get straight A's without even trying because I went to a smart school and I'm smart. And I got there and I got some easy A's in some classes, but there were some classes that were really hard and required a lot of my work and energy. And literally multiple classes last minute I dropped simply because I wasn't going to get an A. There was one class where I missed one day and I got a B, I got like an 89%. I was so close to getting an A. And when I looked back, I realized that if I had not skipped that day of class, I would have gotten an A. And I was just so upset with myself. My whole point in saying this is the reason I dropped those classes is because of the fact that I believed I'm not good enough unless I get an A, because if I'm getting C's or B's at a community college, then I am going downhill from getting A's and B's from a really good or challenging private school that was really hard. So in my perspective, my worth was decreasing because I was equating being intelligent increases my worth. And my academic skills are a reflection of my intelligence and my hard work. I also deem hard work as part of my worth. Not like me as in like my conscious mind, but unconsciously, absolutely I do. I equate hard work to worthiness. So if I'm not getting good grades, which is a reflection that I'm not intelligent enough or not working hard enough. There's something wrong with me. I'm not good enough. And so that's going to feel really fucking shitty. The key is, which is not going to happen overnight, is to say, okay, how do I create a space within myself where I can look at that part of myself that isn't hardworking, or that part of myself that doesn't feel intelligent, and say, you are good enough no matter what. I love you no matter what. Another way to do this, which may be easier at first, look at other people who possess the traits that within yourself you despise. Straight up. If you have a friend who maybe you perceive as unintelligent or unintelligent, oh God, unintelligent, and you really judge yourself whenever you say something that you perceive as dumb. Your job, like a challenge for you, is to look at that person and love them exactly as they are. Love them for being dumb. Love them for being ignorant. Love them exactly as they are. Not because you believe they can't improve, but because that gives you the opportunity to create a safe space within yourself of, like, for example, if you perceive crying as stupid and weak, and you love people that your mind perceives as stupid and weak, you create an environment in your head, in your body, in your energy, where those aspects of themselves that have been deemed that way feel safe to come forward. And the thing is, these traits, you perceive them as negative, but they're not just negative. They also have gifts that you're suppressing because you're like, oh, this bad. But this is here for a reason. It exists within you. It's not something wrong with you. You're the one that's saying it's wrong. I hope that makes sense. And I know, like, I can explain all of this consciously, but me, myself, I still struggle with this shit. I still struggle to be like, oh God, I spent most of my day playing video games. God, I'm a piece of shit. I'm an idiot. Why did I do that? What's wrong with me? I still go through that. I still face that conditioning every single day. There's some days where it barely comes up and some days where it's pretty much all day and controls my decisions and my actions. I still go through it and I still have times where I'm in it. The thing is, it's going to come in waves, and you don't just give up because it's hard. You can give up. That is absolutely an option. And you're here right now because you're looking for some guidance, for some answers. Really, what I feel like I'm here to show you, at least right now, is that you're not alone. Like, this shit is really hard. And it's not easy, and it's really painful, and becoming conscious of it in a lot of ways makes it even more painful because now you can never stop the unawareness to it. It doesn't just fade into the background. It's like suddenly there's like a highlighter over all of your conditioning, and it can be really overwhelming. Yeah. Anyways, I just felt like I went into like a completely different zone when I was talking about that. But yeah. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna keep reading more of your chat. I've never heard it said like that before. I hope that's a good thing. That was said 10 minutes ago. The best meditation is to take a walk barefooted on grass on the beach and tune into the sound of the environment. Your ego is making you doubt even your instinctive thoughts by giving your brain farts. In a sense, yeah. I believe like your mind getting clouded is your ego trying to protect you, because your ego is like, for example, I had a thought the other day where I was like, sometimes we fear feeling a feeling. And that creates another feeling. So if I fear being sad because I'm afraid that I'll cry and the people around me will like judge me and then I'll feel ashamed, I fear that sadness and I fear that shame. And that creates a new feeling of, for example, because this is usually the most common one, anxiety. And so I stick in that anxiety emotionally. My emotional body continues to be anxious as a way of avoiding that feeling. I choose to stay in the anxiety so that I don't feel that feeling that I fear feeling. And this is usually unconscious. I don't know even how that came up. Oh, yeah, brain farts. Yeah. And also with meditation, in my opinion, there is no best meditation. If that's the best meditation for you, fuck yeah, keep doing it. Honestly, for me, it changes day to day. Some of my best meditations are just sitting there and I get in the zone and I feel like my whole body is like vibrating and I'm like, what the fuck is happening? This is really cool. Sometimes my best meditation is sitting down in child's pose and just speaking to myself. Sometimes it's journaling. Like sometimes it's like just talking to myself in the car and going through different ideas and basically getting all this shit that's in my brain out into the open so that I can almost like release it from my body. Like there's no, even like yoga is meditation, which I also like yoga. But anything you do that works for you and helps you bring you to your center, I don't like, it doesn't matter what it is. As long as it helps you, it helps you. Take that with a grain of salt, though. That's where I'm at right now. And how do I keep myself from losing control and feel like I'm not working hard enough? The thing is, it's really hard. Like, I can't just tell you, like, how to stop because it's not. I mean, it is a how, but it's not really a how. It's not like, oh, just like snap your fingers 3 times and do this with your head and those thoughts just disappear. Like, there's no quick fix to it, and every quick fix won't actually fix the deeper issue. As I've said, and as boring as it is, it's really about your beliefs and learning how to shift those beliefs and also having patience with yourself and realizing that it's not going to change overnight. It's not just going to be like that. Like, I was thinking to myself, like, fuck, like, I've been 1 foot as my new self and 1 foot as my old self for a year now. This is ridiculous. Why am I still here? And then I had a moment of just like thinking about the fact that people live into like 100 years old or 80 years old. I'm 21, so I'm really young. For me, a year, I'm like, oh, that's so long. I'm not growing. Like, it's been a whole year and I'm still like this. A year is not a long time in that context, in terms of literally changing the entire way I operate. The fact that I'm still straddling both worlds, if anything, it's like, wow, you're still doing it. You're still doing the work. That's awesome. Instead of like, wow, you're still in between. You know? Like, I get to choose how I look at that, but it's going to be hard if my beliefs gear towards more of a negative perspective. So what you do is when you see, God, I'm not doing well in accounting, like my life is over. Interesting. Why do I think that nothing good can come after this? What other challenges have I gone through? Yeah, there have been negative consequences, but do those consequences still like affect me today? Like, you know how many times I've been so anxious about friend drama, and now I look back and I'm like, wow, I'm not really even friends with those people. And like, I don't really want to, unless there was a moment where like it felt right and that relationship like came back into my life in a way that like felt in alignment to me. But like, I'm not looking to like, so many times where I would just avoid doing what I wanted because I was afraid of losing friends, when it now in my life, that's completely irrelevant. And I'm not saying like this grade in accounting may not affect your life in the short term, but if you really think of the bigger picture, like, what is this teaching you? Like, having this low grade, for example, is it giving you the opportunity to like to learn how to love yourself even when you are being what you have been taught to reject. If you've been taught you're not good enough unless you're getting like all A's and B's or straight A's, and now you're getting C's or D's or F's, it doesn't matter. And now you're in a place where all this conditioning about your worth is coming to the surface, and you have the opportunity. You're definitely still going to be in it. There's no getting around that. It's going to happen when you're like working through this shit. As time goes on, it will be less and less, but it's still going to happen. That's a part of it, unfortunately. You have this opportunity to look at it. So take some time to be like, when you see it, think of it almost like a game. Ooh, I caught you. I see this belief. This thought is a reflection of the belief that my worth is proven by how well I do in school. Okay, like, what other belief will actually help me? You know what I mean? Because there's anxiety about the future and this idea if you're not good enough, your future is going to go wrong. If I don't get this grade, then I can never have these jobs. Okay, well, also, you can not go to college and still be really successful. You can also go to college, get really good grades, and end up doing nothing with your degree. My point is, I'm not saying like, yeah, just fail your accounting class, like whatever, dude. What I'm saying is the fear around it isn't about your grade. The fear around it is about what you believe about yourself and what your parents have taught you to believe about you and your beliefs about reality as a whole. And so that's why I also said, looking at other people as like an exercise and seeing like if you're judging someone and like unconsciously deeming them as less than because they possess certain qualities that you perceive as bad, taking that time as like an opportunity within yourself to just to love that person as they are is going to help you learn how to do that with yourself. And obviously it's hard because you can do it inauthentically and be like, yeah, I love you, whatever. But it's like, I love you as you are. And then you feel that thing in your stomach that's like, oh, no, that's terrible. That's your conditioning. And you get to be like, oh, I see you. Okay, what's going on in here? And even just taking like a moment to meditate for 5 minutes and ask some questions to this aspect of yourself. I hope this helped at all. And I hope this was also applicable to other people, because it's not just about like grades specifically, but that's an example of something that could be a trigger for you. That's really an opportunity to look at your conditioning. Seeking validation turns you into a people pleaser, which creates resentment. Yes. Exactly. 100%. That I think that's like the short and sweet and simple and true. I'm kind of getting it. Well, I'm glad you're getting it at all. Sometimes I say things and I'm like, what did I just say? What's going on? What was that? I don't know. I do feel like I'm never good enough and constantly need to do something that makes me feel worthy in a way. For example, being productive. Yeah, productivity is a big one in terms of at least American society, and I'm sure many, many societies and cultures. In terms of worth, like, I think around the world, people really, really value productivity, and we start to believe, like, it's actually a reflection on, like, our worth as a human being. Oh, wow, nice perspective. Thank you. That's very helpful for me. I'm glad. I think I said helpful. Helpful. It's very helpful for me. And then I said it right that time when I was trying to say it wrong. My negative thoughts are hard to wrestle. I feel that. Yeah, dude, they're really hard. Like this, as I've said, like this shit is not easy. It's really not. And it takes a lot of fucking work and effort. Have you ever considered you might be neurodivergent? You give me those vibes. Kind of. I mean, in my mind, honestly, I've kind of realized, like, well, this is just my personal opinion, but I really have been moving away from labels in general. So for example, I'm bisexual. I like guys. I like girls. But the only reason I use the label bisexual is to give a word for other people to understand who I'm attracted to. But why do I need to say I am bisexual instead of just saying, oh, I'm attracted to men and women equally? Like, do I need, like, that label is just a label to explain who I like. That label isn't who I am. And for example, I have ADHD. I have been diagnosed with anxiety. Does that mean I'm like, oh, like and the reason I'm saying this is because I have heavily identified with these labels before. When I first discovered I like girls, are you kidding? I started tucking my hair back and wearing beanies to look like I had like, oh my God, Hannah Hart hair. And I don't even know how to say this. I started wearing flannels. All my outfits were flannels. I wanted to look as gay as possible, essentially, because that became a huge part of my identity. And then over time, as I got more comfortable with it and used to it, I didn't use that as a reference for how I act and how I am. It just kind of like some things that resonated with me still resonate with me. Other things didn't. That's my dog scratching himself in the background. Enjoy that. So I know this kind of went into a whole different conversation, but my point is, like, in a way, it doesn't matter to me if I'm neurodivergent or not. What matters to me is figuring out how I operate, and doing what's best for myself, in a sense. I hope that makes sense. Yeah, but I remember I definitely, like, I brought that up to my parents once, like 8 months ago, and my dad was just like, no. I was like, oh. He's like, no. Yeah, but I know what you're talking about because I've thought about it before. And then I went into a random conversation about labels. Thank you. I'm laughing out loud. Oh, I'm good. From 2 minutes ago. Your worth should never depend on your academic scores. The most important thing for you to get from schooling is gain knowledge and not the score. That's true. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely about, like, what you learn. Yep, that's kind of like life in my opinion. Yeah, anyways, it's useful for other people for sure. Yeah, I think you're probably talking about the label thing. It's totally valid for me. Finding a label was really validating, and I found a community I could be a part of. Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, at first, for me, that's exactly what I needed. I was so determined to find a label that I went to an all-girls school. And at the time, there were no guys that I was attracted to. So when I first came out, I came out as gay. I came out as lesbian. And to me at the time, that was authentic because I had not been into guys since I was in, like, elementary school. Like, maybe one guy in middle school I was kind of attracted to, or two. I don't know. But my point is, like, whenever, like, a guy would try to, like, be flirty with me, it would make me feel really icky and really like, get away from me. So, and I was so determined to figure out whether I was bi or gay that I kind of, like, rushed into it because I just wanted to feel comfortable saying what I was. And then it wasn't until, like, 4 years later that I ended up having an experience with a guy and being like, okay, wait, I actually do like guys. I just, like, I don't know. But the label thing, it's not that it's bad. It's just that it can be limiting because if you put yourself in a box and you start to believe that those things within that box is what makes up who you are, you can lose your authentic self in that identity. That's where the danger lies. It's not about, like, oh, if you're gay, like, you shouldn't, like, just make that, like, I don't even know how to explain it. Everyone's different. If you resonate with certain communities, absolutely, like, that's amazing and that's awesome, and continue to do that. And you don't have to let that aspect of yourself eat the rest of your identity because you believe this is what makes my identity good and this is what's going to make people accept me. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I think it's beautiful that we can change and grow and try on new identities, like pairs of jeans, until we find the perfect fit. and how it's okay if that changes because, oops, you get the point. I'm going to stop talking so much. No, you're good. You're good. I like that analogy. It is true. It's like trying on clothes. These identities aren't who we are. It's like an outfit we're trying on. And like with different people, you may resonate with certain or different ways of being. Like there's some groups of people, like for example, I had a friend who was like really girly and kind of like I guess what people would refer to as basic. And my closest friend who lived with me at the time, um whenever I'd hang out with this other friend, my roommate and my friend who's closer to me would say, whenever you're around her, you just act like a different person. And I'm like, really? Like, I don't even, like, I don't think about it. I'm not trying to mirror her, but it's almost like she unlocks this different aspect of my personality. And therefore, I behave and interact differently around her than I maybe would like with my closest friends, because it's like a different outfit I'm trying on because that's the outfit that feels right to be in with this other person. That's not a bad thing, but it's about being aware of like, we're multidimensional. We're not just one thing. And if we get stuck in one thing, then we're limiting ourselves because we're not really feeling into all of who we are. We're only feeling into part of who we are and maybe even muting things unconsciously. So, yeah. Random question. Do you have water nearby so you can stay hydrated? At the beginning of my live, I went to get my water bottle and I was like, uh-oh. So, yes, I just forgot to fill it right before, but I'm going to have to end this live anyway because well, A, I'm thirsty, and B, it's been over an hour, which is not a bad thing. However, I think it's good to have the lives not go on forever. As a short ending, that is one reason why I either want to start a second channel, because I actually considered like posting some like me playing games on here, because it's not like I just like play a game and be like, yeah, this is so cool. Like I would still talk about all this stuff because I love talking about this stuff, and I'm sure in especially like story-based games, I would be discussing like psychological and spiritual aspects within the game. Like, dude, I see it everywhere. It's crazy. Like games like, for example, Detroit Become Human, so many references to real life and like waking up and like people being treated differently in society, and like what is consciousness? Can technology be conscious? Like, is everything alive? Is it just like biological being? Like, I don't know. That totally random conversation, but eye contact changed the game for me. It's underrated. My social anxiety is almost non-existent. No, honestly, eye contact is very important. It's very interesting. But it's not about like, I think you know what I'm saying. It's about connecting with another person, and eyes are really, like, as people say, windows to the soul. But so much of our life is experienced through the eyes. So, yeah. Anyways, I forget exactly what I was saying. But, if I did streams like that where I'm playing games, they would absolutely be longer because I would not be concerned with, like, how long have I been doing this? And are people going to watch, like, an hour and a half of me talking? Like, if a video has 1,000 views, that's an hour and a half. There's, I don't even know how many people watched to the end. Probably less than 100. But I don't know. But that's why I've been considering, like, do I do something else for that thing as opposed to just, like, make this channel just, like, a dump of everything I do? I think it'd be better to, have some different things. Because, like, maybe not everyone on here would want to see me just, like, play a video game and talk. Maybe you would, but I don't know. I swear it'd be so cool to hang with you sometime. Thank you. I'm glad. I just must seem so cool and fun and hip and... Thank you. Long story short. My son talks on and on while streaming. But that's a good thing. You don't want dead air. So that's definitely not bad. I totally validate your questioning your true existence and try to make an impact on others by your findings. Thank you. I think I know what you're saying. Thank you. I know I said in a previous live, but I'd watch. Hell yeah. Okay, that's good to hear, Sage. Because you're here like a lot of my lives, so I definitely recognize you. And I think I've seen Jody before as well, and maybe Ashley. I keep changing labels all the time in the way of sexuality. I just choose to not have one anymore. I hardly have had any significant experiences to label myself as anything. Yeah, you see, like when I first you know, came out and was questioning my sexuality, it pissed me off when people didn't label themselves. I'm like, what the fuck? Who are you attracted to? Tell me. Like, what are you? And now I'm like, first of all, it's none of my business. Second of all, good shit, dude. Like, you don't need anything. Like, you can have it. Like, I still use my label, but it becomes a part of my identity less and less. Also, random thing. I also love that by the end of these lives, it goes from like, let's talk about this topic that the thumbnail and video is about. Now, let's go on this long tangent and we end up in fuckery zone. And I don't even know what we're talking about anymore, but I fucking love it. I'm having a really good time. Yes, thank you. It's you and who you are, something you should embrace. Right. I mean, he plays games while talking, so you could as well. Yeah, definitely. I know I can, and I want to. And I am definitely getting in my head about like how I should do it. Like, should I use Twitch? Should I use YouTube? Should I just not do it? Should I do it like last night for the first time I had the thought like maybe I could just do it on my main channel. And that actually felt really good. I think the only thing is people here are following me for the kinds of videos I'm already making. And I don't want to like muddle that up, but also there's tons of content creators who have like shifted what they've done and have so many different types of things on their channel. So at the end of the day, I don't know. We'll see, because I'm trying to think of it more as a business perspective, but also it's like, is that authentic to me? Yeah, I don't know. I'm so young and I'm learning shit. I don't know how things work. Fingers crossed for the gaming content. Just know I'm gonna be there day one. J-Play, you have been there since day one. I know you. Like, fuck. I've said this before. You left a comment on one of my videos and it literally made me cry because it was so amazing. Like, that is something I do not forget. So you're already a day one, even YouTube and TikTok. Most fun I had all week. Oh, hell yeah. YouTube, please. Well, that's the thing. If I did it on Twitch, I would save the streams and post them on YouTube, but I don't know if I would. If I did that, I'd probably do that on a different channel. But the thing with Twitch is like, you don't grow on Twitch. It's like you need people to come from other platforms. And not that that's a bad thing. I just don't really, I don't know. I already have a Twitch, but I haven't used it in like 2 years. So, well, I would love it because my daughters are gamers and we are estranged. I don't even know what estranged means, but heck yeah. I would love watching you on Twitch, TBH. A Restream .io will allow you to stream both Twitch and YouTube and aggregates the chat. Oh, like you can stream them both at the same time on 2 different platforms? That's an interesting idea, actually. It'd be really hard to read the chat because I don't know what aggregate means, unless that means combines the chat, but not a bad idea. The thing is, I can't even show you a camera, but wait, here you go. Want to see something trippy? I stream on my laptop. It's a laptop, right? So yes, this is not a streaming setup. I have my laptop and here's a light and I'm talking. That's my streaming setup right now. Yes. I also want to like actually get my camera so I could stream with my nice camera instead of just stream with like, honestly, this laptop camera isn't bad because this is like the newer Mac, but yeah. Oh, it means I don't have contact with them. Got it. In regards how a conversation could start off talking about one thing and end up in another. Yes, aggregates, combines. Okay, cool, cool, cool. See, I'm not an English major, if you can't tell. um, Professional wink. Sorry, I was reading the comment and not reading it out loud. I love that. You could start off by talking about building meaningful bonds with other people and end up talking about chocolate, extraterrestrials, and if they consider toasters as art. Yeah. No, I like it. I think, some people, like, no matter what content you make, not everyone is going to like it. There's going to be some people that come on here and be like, what the fuck is she talking about? She's all over the place. No, thank you. And some people who come here and like that because they don't want to hear someone talk about the same exact thing on repeat, go in circles. I mean, I'm sure I go in circles too. I feel like I bring like a different perspective to it every time at least, or looking at it from another angle. But some of you may feel that way. Some of you may not. So, I mean, but those of you who are here are clearly here for a reason. So, thank you. In Combines chat, you just need a capture card for your laptop for the game system. Mage wells are good. Okay. Yeah, I probably just need to do some more research on it because I honestly do want to. I love making content and I love talking to you guys, and I honestly feel so grateful. Like, there's like 20 people here right now, which from some people's perspectives is not a lot. Like, I really don't care. To me, I really value that, like, some of you have been here the entire stream and have been interacting in the chat. Do you understand, like, how, like, I just feel so grateful that there's people here who, like, care enough to listen to me talking about my perspective on life. It's not even just about me, but it's like I genuinely enjoy doing this. And what I do with my energy and my time and my life, like, I don't want to have a job where I feel like, oh, fuck, this is so, nah. And you know what? From one perspective, that may be me being particular or bratty. I mean, like, I don't want to work a minimum wage job at Starbucks because I'm, like, better than that or whatever. I don't know. I just feel like I can do what I love to do. And I feel like the only thing holding me back is myself. That's the only thing holding me back, is me being scared to take action on shit and feeling like I need to get it perfect. Like, does it even matter if I posted this shit on this channel or whether I posted it somewhere else? No. I mean, from one perspective, yeah, but like in reality, it doesn't really matter. Because I really believe like what's meant to be will be. And I don't believe like a small decision like that is gonna fuck up your whole life. Yeah, it might change things in the short term, but in the long term, it's like either it's for you and part of your life path or it's not. And that kind of little thing probably isn't going to be the make or break point if it's meant for you. I don't know. That's at least what I believe. But that might be a very spiritual perspective on a very like physical thing, even though everything's energy. If it's what you're doing for business, you gotta be able to enjoy it. And you like gaming, so there you go. And it's not an accident that we are talking either. Everything is planned and annexed for meaningful reasons. No, it doesn't. Yes, you've created a safe space. Oh, thank you. Yeah. What would fuck you up is to cut off a part of yourself to live. Sorry, I think it's hiding that comment because it thinks it's saying something wrong, which I think it's just like misinterpreting what you're saying.
But myself is the harshest critic. Yeah, just do you and they will come. Exactly. You're always your own harshest critic, 100% of the time. There's nothing wrong with seeking work you love instead of the standard jobs available. I hold myself back too much too, by the way. I think all of us do. It's all fear. It's just fear. I'm working through like the internal stuff, but sometimes I feel like I'm not working through it just because I'm still gauging my internal work based off of my external behavior. And even then, my external behavior is still like leagues improved from where I was like 2 years ago or even a year ago. I mean, I lived alone in Delaware for like over half a year just by myself. Literally saw other people only when I went to the grocery store and when I saw like two like twin boys my age like literally like 3 times the entire time I was there. Like I did not see anybody. And that was a very like I grew a lot, but also it's like I couldn't grow completely in that environment because there weren't the external challenges that really gave me the opportunity. Like some of my conditioning was completely muted because there was nothing to trigger it and bring it to the surface because I was alone all the time. Like it was great. I needed that reset. And there were a lot of things like there were so many things I would have never been able to learn in that context because I was alone, if that makes sense. If you still have time for this question, okay, yeah, I'll answer this last question and then we'll go because I do want to go. But I also love talking and can talk forever. So thank you for listening. I'm kind of curious about spiritual things, but also nervous. Raised in a traditional Christian home, and I'd be sad to turn my back on God, but also, okay, there's a part 2. I'm just going to start with the part 1 until I see the second part of the question. I understand. Oh, perfect. But also some things don't vibe. They just don't. And I probably should have watched your video first, but I was scared. First of all, I completely understand. I grew up in like atheist/agnostic household, so I didn't grow up with religion. I am baptized, but I went to church maybe like 3 times my whole life, and 1 or 2 of those times was with like my friends' families because I'd stay over. The next day was Sunday, and they're like, all right, we're going to church. And I'm like, okay, what? Dani Foxx ASMR. Oh my God. No way. I would not do that. I mean, as a joke, I would. Hey guys, it's Dani. Ew, God, that makes me cringe. I don't even know if that made sense what you just saw me do, but that's something I would do alone. I'm just like, oh, belief. Oh, that's cringe. People will judge me. That's bad. Oh no, can never do that because people will judge me. Anyways, my dad grew up as Catholic and he basically left the church because at a certain point he started realizing, wait a minute, this to me doesn't feel like, it just doesn't feel fully right. And the thing is, I believe every single religion stems from truth. I don't like before I went through my awakening, I was like, maybe there's something out there, but no religion has got it right yet. No, every religion has got it right. The problem is people who weren't ready for it or was not able to interpret it took the text and turned it into something that was false. So it's like there's a lot of truth in the Bible, but it's manipulated. The Bible is not the same text that it was when it was first written. Jesus absolutely was a very strong spiritual teacher and, helped a lot of people change their entire perception of reality. And maybe he had a lot of gifts because he was so powerful that he had the ability to manipulate energy. Does that mean I believe he walked on water and shit? No. Do I say that that's absolutely ludicrous? I don't know. Anything could be possible. right? I don't know what happened. I don't know Jesus personally. I mean, from one perspective I do, but Dani does not know Jesus personally. My point in saying this is the church indoctrinates people with fear because they teach people who go to the church, if you don't follow this religion in this specific way, then for the rest of your eternal life as a soul, you are going to hell. Or you're just not going to heaven. I guess it depends on which path of Christianity you were taught. But the whole thing is ruled on fear. And look, I can explain this from a spiritual perspective and say, feel that vibration in your body. Does that feel good? No. Why would God want you to feel that way? Like, think about how good peace and love feels. But like, if you're coming from a place of fear, yes, in a way, love is the antidote to that fear, but being in a fake space of love is not. I think religion is a box. Spirituality is open. When I say spirituality, I don't mean new age spirituality. Sure, it can include aspects of that. Sure, it can be that, but it doesn't have to be anything. When I say spirituality, I mean more like we don't know what's going on. Nobody actually knows. Nobody has any tangible proof. And even the proof we do have, everything everyone says is proof is an interpretation of the truth. It's hard for me to tell you how to work through this conditioning when I'm, first of all, very grateful this is not something that I've had to go through personally. Here's some advice for you. If you're really feeling scared, go into a meditation or prayer or whatever word works for you, because in my mind, prayer can be a form of meditation. And just set the intention of connecting with God and your truest self and see what feels right. When you go to church, do you feel the love and light of God? Or do you feel fucking terrified? What would the devil want to make you feel versus what would God make you want to feel? In my mind, it's kind of like as simple as that, like a God who loves all of his children, loves all of us. Because in my mind, we are all his or hers children. I don't even like calling God he, but that's kind of besides the point. I don't think that God would want us to feel fear all the time. That's like an ego. If we're living out of ego, we're going to perceive God as an ego. If we're living out of our heart, we're going to perceive God as part of our heart. Does that make sense? It's hard to explain because it's literally like in layers, and then we keep getting pulled back to these other layers and thinking, well, what if this is the real reality? But then when you come back to your center, I feel like you can always be like, oh, wait a minute. Oh, I was in my head again. Oh, I was like letting the fear control me again. And then you're like, in those moments, you come like closer to yourself. And I feel like you can feel that. And so in my mind, I think the main piece of advice I could give you is come back to yourself. That fear is going to be there. And I can't give you the exact advice on how to work through it other than the general advice I give on working through fear. Because religious fear and spiritual fear, to me, I'm glad that I did not have to go through that kind of conditioning. That's all I can really say. Yeah. This is a very common fear I've shared being in a Protestant household. Please give yourself time to process all the new info you deserve to explore your spirituality. Yeah. Makes so much sense. I've been questioning a lot of whether the Bible has been manipulated. Thank you. Yeah, I think also one quick thing to remember, more from a logical perspective, the Bible was written by human beings. It's not like God wrote the Bible and like flucked it down to earth. You know what I mean? And even if those people were channeling the word of God, you have to realize that words cannot perfectly capture everything someone is saying. The reason Christianity has been interpreted so many different ways is because this entire life, if someone made it into like a Bible in a sense, people can interpret everything I'm saying 1,000 different ways and create so many different ideologies on everything I've said. And maybe none of them will even portray what I actually meant, because I am trying to funnel my thoughts and ideas and feelings into words, which cannot perfectly capture what all of reality is. So in a sense, it's like, take some comfort in the idea that we don't know what's out there, and no loving God would punish you because you don't know what's true. It's not like God comes down to every single person individually and says, hey, this is what's right and this is what's wrong. Do what's right and you will be rewarded. Do what's wrong and you will be punished. That doesn't happen. A loving God would not try to deceive us like that. That's the way I think about it. Anyways, I'm sure a lot of people who are Christian would disagree with that point, but I think it's more about other shit. Anyways, thank you. I didn't enter because I have that problem. I entered because I don't, and you are right. I always fell asleep in church and then felt guilty afterwards. And when I was awake, I like young Sheldon. Young Sheldon, like from The Big Bang Theory? I'm writing this down, LOL. If you're really scared, go into meditation and set a purpose of reaching out to God and see what feels right. That feel good. That good? Yeah, essentially, like, connect with yourself, connect with God. And the thing is, like, you may still connect to other things. Like, there have been very few times where I feel like I'm truly, like, speaking to, like, the all-knowing force. But I have had times where I feel like the energy of peace and calm, and therefore it feels like my answers come to me, because God isn't something just, like, outside of you. It's like you connect to it inside of you. You connect to everything inside of you. Like, I don't even know how to explain this, but don't meditate in terms of like, I need to find this thing. Where are you? Where are you? Come to me. Just go into a place of, I want to connect to like the truth that I need to know right now. I'm setting the intention of connecting to the aspect of God that can help me most right now, that can give me the clearest route to guidance, that will aid me in my life, and focus on what you presently need. I don't know. I hope that helps. That's right. And it's very important to remember that fact. My life is worth the time and effort to question my top beliefs. Exactly. Every mind is a world, so every person perceives things uniquely. I like the way that's said, Diana. Or, yeah, Diana, that's probably how you pronounce it. Because I feel like there's so many different ways to pronounce names that are spelled normally. Like, I don't know, it's like, it's Diana, it's Deanna. I'm sorry. Diana, probably. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate you guys being here. I'm gonna go before I rant for another hour. I gotta, as you guys know, hydrate. I'm thirsty and forgot to fill it up before my live. So, thank you. I know I didn't post in like 2 weeks, or for the past 2 weeks. Yeah, it was 2 Sundays ago. But going on a trip for like 5 days, 6 days maybe, and I will be back. And here we are. I'm very excited. Thank you guys. I love you guys. See you all very soon.